Supreme Court reins in bulldozers. Rules set for demolition drives. Officials to face action if they violate order. SC draws the red line for executive. Breaks on bulldozer justice.
Namaskar. Hello and welcome to this News Today special Maharashtra Bazaar. This time we are coming to you from Ratnagiri along the Konkan coast. That's right, we've been crisscrossing the election battleground state to bring you reports from across Maharashtra. But our top story today comes from the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court today has delivered a landmark judgment in a case that is being described as bulldozer justice or the bulldozer injustice that has prevailed in the country in recent times. The court today said very clearly the executive cannot become the judge while setting clear guidelines before any bulldozer action is taken that demolishes the homes of an Indian citizen, saying that someone's shelter is paramount and is part of fundamental rights. So therefore, right at the very top, I want to focus on the implications of this landmark judgment that the court has passed on bulldozer action. It's our top story.
Supreme Court puts the brakes on bulldozer justice. A two-judge bench of Justice B.R. Gavai and Justice K.V. Vishwanathan on Wednesday laid down norms for demolition drives. The court's ruling came on petitions challenging bulldozer action in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. The court in its order listed norms to be followed by all states while ordering demolitions. The authorities will have to give 15 days notice to the property owner. The notice must be sent by registered post and should be pasted on the outer portion of the house. All such notices must be logged in a digital portal. Reasons for demolition should be given. Owners should be told which parts of the building will be demolished. The affected party will get 15 days to challenge the order. The demolition must be videographed. Officials who violate the rules will be booked for contempt. They will be liable to pay costs from salary. The court clarified that these guidelines will not apply on unauthorized occupation of roads, footpaths, railway lines or water bodies, or on cases where demolition is ordered by a court. The court came down heavily on the practice of unleashing bulldozers on properties owned by accused in other cases. The court said the executive cannot become judge. The judges said that the government cannot demolish just because someone is accused or even convicted of a crime. Depriving people of shelter violates fundamental rights. Family members or neighbors cannot be punished for the act of one person. The court also said it is not a happy sight to see women, children and aged persons dragged to the streets overnight. Selective demolition raises the question of abuse of power. The opposition welcomed the verdict, terming it a setback for the BJP, which had pushed bulldozer justice in states ruled by the party.
इस मौके पर जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला आया है सरकार के खिलाफ, उसका धन्यवाद देता हूं, बधाई देता हूं। ऐसे कम फैसले होते हैं जहां पर सरकार को जुर्माना देना पड़ता है। क्या कोई सोच सकता है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने सरकार पर 25 लाख का जुर्माना लगाया है?
देखिए, जहां तक का बुलडोजर, सुप्रीम कोर्ट और मकानों का सवाल है, भाजपा का मत बिल्कुल स्पष्ट है। हम सभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट का सम्मान करते हैं और ये जो विषय आया है, यह कोई एक राज्य के लिए या एक दूसरे राज्य के लिए नहीं, ये पूरे भारतवर्ष के लिए आया है।
Many state governments have used demolitions as means of instant justice in criminal cases. The bulldozer model has been an election issue too. The Supreme Court's rules are now set to slow down the bulldozers.
The processes of demolition and defining an unauthorized construction have been in municipal laws of various states for years. But with bulldozer justice becoming a political point, the question is how much of a whip will the apex court really need to crack before the politicians and the executive really listens? In New Delhi, this is Anisha Mathur for India Today.
So let's raise the big questions. What is the message that the Supreme Court has sent out today in this order on bulldozer justice? Will this Supreme Court order now stop bulldozer action? Bulldozer justice, will the officials and netas face action who are responsible for demolishing houses? Has the Supreme Court stood up for individual rights? And what happens to those who've lost their houses? Will they be compensated? Joining me now, Dushyant Dave, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court, Colin Gonsalves, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court, Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court, and Sudhir Krishna, former Secretary, Urban Development Department. I've got three lawyers who've been fighting on this matter now for years. Today is a day where they may well feel vindicated, so I want to go to each of them to understand from them what the big message from the Supreme Court is. To you, Dushyant Dave, first, what do you think is the message from the Supreme Court? Is it simple that the executive cannot become the judge and thereby putting limits on executive power when they decide to bulldoze someone's house?
Rajdeep, first and foremost, don't call it bulldozer justice. It was bulldozer injustice. Secondly, most important, what the Supreme Court has done today is something extraordinary. Because bulldozers were being used as instrument of state policy to target a particular section of the society. And the Supreme Court has put complete brakes on that exercise of abuse of power. So I think the Supreme Court has sent an extraordinarily powerful message, told the government, especially the party in power at the center and their allies in the states, that this has to stop. You cannot take law into your own hands. We are a democracy. There is a constitution. There are fundamental rights. And we will not be moved spectators to see this kind of injustices being meted out to a section of the society. So I think this is one of the, I would say, remarkable developments in recent times, because we have been seeing since 2014 that the Supreme Court has grown weaker and weaker in front of a very powerful executive, as it happened during emergency in 1975. So I think this development, to my mind, really is heart-rendering, and it really sets the constitutional mechanism in place. It sets the separation of power theory in place, and
Right.
it really puts a checks and balance on the abuse by the executive of the day.
Okay, let me at the moment bring in Colin Gonsalves, because Colin, you worked on human rights cases over the years. Thousands of houses over the years have been demolished. Do you believe, therefore, the court order comes too little too late? That at the end of the day, what happens to those who are victims of arbitrariness in the context of what Dushyant Dave calls bulldozer injustice? Is it too little too late now, or do you believe better late than never?
Well, even if it's little and late, I welcome the judgment. But I must caution that it's based on a very slender point, namely that if you're a criminal accused of a crime, your house can't be bulldozed merely on account of the fact that you are accused of a crime. That's a very narrow case. So we shouldn't overemphasize the impact of this judgment, because there are parts which say that if you're unauthorized, you can be demolished. Now, if you look at the slums in the country, 1/3 of all cities are slums, and they're all unauthorized. They don't have a title to land. So if some person wants to misuse the judgment, they could simply tell all slum dwellers, the judgment says if you're unauthorized, you can be demolished, and go ahead and demolish slums. There's another line of judgments on that, on slums.
But there will be those, Colin Gonsalves, who are listening to you who will say, Colin, just to stop you, there will be those who are listening to you who will say unauthorized constructions must be demolished. So the court is also making the distinction between the arbitrary use of state power, but if you do follow due process, then the state is entitled to demolish your house.
Look, Rajdeep, like I said, I understand the first important part. If I'm a criminal, my house, or accused of a crime, my house can't be demolished. But the use of the word unauthorized can be demolished is fraught with all kinds of danger. very, very dangerous because all slums are unauthorized. Can you imagine millions of people if some perverted kind of, politician says, all right, all of you are unauthorized, Supreme Court judgment says, unauthorized, I'll break your slum. Where will they go? What will happen? And there are many good judgments on slum dwellers and their right to housing. But this judgment is to be interpreted very narrowly and used very carefully only for persons accused of a criminal offense. Their houses can't be broken only for that reason.
Okay, that's an important point, your important note of caution that you're adding. But Sanjay Hegde, give us your perspective. What's the message that you believe the courts have sent out today?
Well, since I was one of the lawyers who argued the matter. I think the most important takeaway today is that you cannot let your bulldozers run amok at the wish of any particular person in administration. You may say that a house is unauthorized or part of that house is unauthorized. But if you want to resort to demolition, there has to be a particular due process. You need to give the man notice. After that, you need to give the man a hearing. Then come to a decision. That decision should be appealable. And if you get it wrong, or if you demolish arbitrarily with malice, then the cost of the demolition and the entire property which has been lost, compensation can be taken from the pockets of the officials concerned. That is very important because we've seen many officials run to obey the perceived wishes of their political masters. They can no longer say that we did not know. The Supreme Court has put everybody on warning, and this is an important break against despotism. Executive despotism has been stopped.
You're saying it's a break against executive despotism, but Sudhir Krishna, as a bureaucrat, respond to what you've heard from the lawyers. Do you believe this will actually work on the ground? Do you believe that this will act as a major deterrent? Or governments will simply say, let's use that 15-day notice, but we're going to demolish. If we are going to send out the tough government, the governments who want to play the role of showing that they are a tough government, will, with the willing bureaucrats, continue to demolish houses. Do you see this judgment as a deterrent, Mr. Sudhir Krishna, on the bureaucrats and the politicians who've used the bulldozer as a symbol of their executive power?
Well, I think it's an important point, and I think the question is that whether illegal orders of superiors should be disobeyed or obeyed. I mean, this is a matter which Supreme Court, I wish the Supreme Court had discussed this issue also. I have not seen the full order still. I hope they have discussed that issue, because the authorities who go for demolition, they are junior officials, maybe like executive engineer or maybe like sub-divisional magistrate or maybe some police officials. But the other orders are given by superiors, and I wonder whether the orders were given in writing. So these are the issues which ought to have also been covered, because as per the service rules, the orders which are not legal or even oral orders must be converted into written orders, even post facto. And if officers follow illegal orders, then they cannot take excuse later unless the orders came in writing. So this matter has to be settled, because it is not only in this case. In so many cases, the officers who are in the field or even in the secretariats, they are asked to do certain things which may at times not be strictly as per law. But out of the tradition of the army, bureaucracy is following the tradition of the army, where orders are to be given, have to be obeyed, and so on and so forth, and the issue comes. So I think that matter has also to be settled, whether the orders were given in the first instance in writing, and if given, whether these were illegal, and if officers followed illegal orders, they ought to have questioned it and not obeyed it. But this has never been said so clearly in black and white. Even any court order also I have not seen. Maybe Pakistan High Court, Supreme Court has given some judgments I could see, but our courts have not put this was a golden opportunity. And one more point I want to make is that, with due regard, the Supreme Court has made created a bit of complexity in management of in administration. For example, the demolition activities are to be done by local authorities like municipal corporation mostly, and at times by development authority, rarely by district magistrate. Now the Supreme Court has roped in the district magistrate. Now he has to create a portal. All things have to go to, this all complicates the matter. On the face of it, it seems good, but in general governance, this is going to make a total chaos in terms of, there are a lot of work for district magistrate. Now creating a portal, managing the portal, posting everything on portal, all
Right.
videography, and it's too much of, complication that has been introduced.
Dushyant Dave, do you want to respond to what you heard from Sudhir Krishna? He's a former Secretary, Ministry of Urban Development. Could this order lead to more chaos? Do you fear that there could be, is this order really going to result in a deterrent to those who are hell-bent in a way of using the bulldozer as a symbol, they believe, of settling scores? Someone who's a criminal or is accused of criminality go out and demolish his house. Do you see it actually as a deterrent in the end?
Well, I don't agree with him at all, with great respect, nor do I agree with what my dear friend Colin has said. Let me make one thing very clear. Bulldozer injustice was a state instrument of state policy by the government to target a particular community. That has now come to an end. And I don't think any officer in his wisdom would have the courage to go against the judgment of the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court has said that this will amount to contempt of court. One. Two, officers will have to pay from their own pocket. So every officer at every level is now going to ask for instructions in writing. Whether he's a municipal officer, whether he's a junior engineer, whether he's a superintendent of police, nobody is now on going to implement it. And it will amount to a very serious case of contempt of court. And I don't think any officer wants to stick his neck out in the face of the Supreme Court order, because it's been very widely circulated already in last few hours. Secondly, I don't think Colin is right that this is going to create complications, for this reason, that by another set of judgment recently, another bench of the Supreme Court has already clarified that you cannot go on demolishing the houses of people, even though you may think that they are unauthorized, unless you follow the due process of the law. So I think, that is a very good thing. Yes, as he is rightly saying, slums are unauthorized, but there are a lot of unauthorized structures, even amongst the rich people. I have seen unauthorized constructions all over in Delhi, where I have a farm in, Kapasera. Even part of, in Golf Link, I see people have made constructions which are unauthorized, part of the construction. And there are already more than 400 or 500 colonies in Delhi, as per Government of India's own affidavit in High Court, which are wholly unauthorized. So I am not worried about that. Today, this matter now is important because a particular community can, heave a sigh of relief that we will not be targeted now on. And that's what is important. And that's what we had aimed, because it started, I'll tell you something.
Okay.
That it started with Jahangirpuri in Delhi, where, at the instance of party in power, the Commissioner of Police and the Commissioner of Municipal Corporation were directed to take action after certain riots had taken place, allegedly. Now, at that stage, Supreme Court, at my request, intervened, Chief Justice Ramna, without even a petition, and stayed the demolitions. So now, I don't think we should really be, picking holes in the judgment. The fact is that this judgment sends a very powerful message. That's what is important.
It's a message, therefore, Colin Gonsalves. You're making the point that what happens to someone who's a slum dweller, will he get the benefit of this judgment, or is this judgment to be seen in a very limited context? But as Dushyant Dave points out, sometimes messaging is important. And this judgment, in that sense, at least sends out a strong message that you can't just arbitrarily use executive power. To that extent, do you think that this judgment could make a difference for many people, even those who live in dwellings that may be unauthorized, a slum pocket, who fear demolition almost every day of their lives?
Well, I'll go along with Dushyant on this, and I hope that he's absolutely right, because a Supreme Court order is a Supreme Court order, and it's made in the context of what was happening in UP and elsewhere. And it will have a sobering effect on some politicians who want to use the bulldozer as a weapon. So I go along with Dushyant, and I hope that he's right, and I hope it slows down this bulldozer injustice that was happening in the country.
But the other question, Sanjay, again, since you appeared in the case, it's important. What about compensating those who already lost their homes? What about taking retrospective action against officials who have misused their power, albeit under instructions possibly from the political leadership? What happens to those who lost their homes? Do they get any compensation at all? Do they only get a sense of a feeling that of some kind of a closure, but not real justice?
Well, the cases have not been disposed of on facts. The cases have been directed to be listed 4 weeks later. So those who have approached the Supreme Court, maybe the Supreme Court at some point of time in the future may offer order compensation. But using this judgment, I'm sure that there will be many.
Do you think they should offer compensation? Do you think rules should be set even? Do you think it should be done retrospectively, or that's not possible?
No, it is quite possible. It is quite possible by approaching the High Courts. Yes.
Sanjay, let me interrupt. Guwahati High Court has ordered compensation of 25 lakhs of rupees in a case last year. So I think compensation will be given. And Sanjay is right that court has kept the matter back. And these officials can be prosecuted under IPC for having abused their positions.
And I'm sure that now there will be many more cases which approach the courts.
Yeah.
Rajdeep, there will be many more cases. So
you're saying compensation is possible. Sudhir Krishna, how much? Sudhir Krishna, what about the bureaucrats themselves? Will they feel squeezed between a court which wants them to act per due process and politicians who want to sort of show their power, the executive power that they have, or as Dushyant Dave seems to suggest, teach a community a lesson? He was obviously referring to the fact that many Indian Muslims, especially in Uttar Pradesh, felt that they were being targeted. Do you believe that the bureaucrats are going to be caught in a way between a court which expects them to follow due process and politicians who want them to get tough?
I think it is a good sign. The court has given an opportunity for bureaucracy to introspect. And I think it is time for government as an institution also to do introspection and set the rules clear. And because the Supreme Court order is, on a particular situation, but it is having wide ramifications. It is going to crush, so many good issues also along with the bad issues. As earlier mentioned by Mr. Colin, I think unauthorized constructions are rampant everywhere. And the government was doing half-hearted action, picking and choosing certain cases, the unauthorized construction. We saw in Hyderabad.
Yeah, because the government, if I may intervene, Mr. Krishna, if I may intervene, Mr. Krishna, the general feeling is in most cases governments act against specific individuals, but not against others. If you are a VVIP and you have an unauthorized construction, you are protected. If you are poor, you have no chance.
Absolutely.
I can tell you one thing, Rajdeep, that there are more unauthorized structures in Lutyens, Delhi than anywhere else.
No, let Mr. Krishna finish. Let Mr. Krishna finish, I'll come to you. Let Mr. Krishna finish, I'll come to you. Yes, Mr. Krishna.
Thank you. I think it is high time. It is high time that the rules are made clearer and clearer. And who will follow the orders, how the orders are to be followed, that should be also set in black and white. Number one. Number two, demolition procedures have to be put in order because, demolition should be done as a part of review of the plan, review of the situation for the certain area, like the whole city or like the whole area, part of a city, not picking and choosing here and there. That creates complication everywhere. So the bureaucracy, it is high time. It's a golden opportunity for the bureaucracy to get together their thinking and prepare the rules of business clearer than before. Rules of business are there, but perhaps they are disjointed. Now this judgment should lead to clearer rules being framed in respect of specifically for demolition of structures, right, and to following orders of superiors, clear cut. That will set the governance in a better pedestal than what it has come to now. It is going down the hill over time. Now at least there is an opportunity to raise it, to higher levels now.
Because you were going to mention Hyderabad and, Dushyant Dave, as you were coming into that conversation, in Hyderabad, the Telangana government has faced a lot of flack for its demolition drive that it's undertaken. Many
Yes.
of them are against influential people. They are being accused in a way of arbitrariness. Am I correct, Mr. Krishna?
Yes, yes, that is true. And in fact, what has happened is that, this arbitrariness is the issue which people dislike. You demolish all illegal in one shot by giving proper notice, by notifying people, giving hearing to people. These are all common sense. All rules are saying that only. Unfortunately, the rules are not being followed. And that is why over time, the unauthorized, you see, when unauthorized construction is happening, is it that nobody was seeing
Right.
that? It is not coming out of air. Over time, it has come. So I think it is high time that, the policy also says that. Unfortunately, it is not being implemented. And on complaint here and there, you are demolishing. That leads to frustration.
Okay. Can I bring Dushyant Dave in, who was trying to jump in? Dushyant, what's the point you want to make?
See, I want to say one thing, that town planning in this country has gone completely astray. Mr. Krishna is absolutely right that this judgment will bring some kind of a sanity. But it all depends. You see, every officer is bound by the Constitution. It is unfortunate that in this country, no officer gives a lip service to the Constitution, be it civilian, police, or otherwise. So, as a result of that, the political class, maneuvers them to do things which are wholly unconstitutional. Now, so far as unauthorized structures are concerned, you go anywhere in Delhi. You come to Lutyens zone, you go to farmhouses, you go to any colony of Delhi where you will find people have built houses and other structures which are beyond permissible, approved plans beyond permissible limits. Nothing is being done. And when this is happening, now everybody knows farmhouses are being built and monthly payments are taken by the municipal authorities and police authorities. Everybody knows that. I mean, it's on month basis, Rajdeep. So, and nobody stops. Farmhouses with 20,000-30,000 square feet are being built around Delhi. So, this has to stop at some stage, but I don't think anybody has a political will, because, the kind of bureaucracy we have today, corruption is setting in every walk of life. It's bureaucracy, whether it's judiciary, whether it's political class. Who has the courage to do things and enforce the law in this country? So law is being enforced selectively, as Mr. Krishna rightly says. And I hope that, our purpose in this matter was only to see that the minority community is protected. And I must say, with a great sense of satisfaction, that to that extent, a great achievement has been achieved.
Rajdeep, if I can come in.
But do you believe, therefore, taking up from what Dushyant Dave said, Sanjay Hegde, Yogi Adityanath got the moniker Bulldozer Baba a few years ago. In fact, during one of his rallies in Uttar Pradesh, I saw a bulldozer being used, and he took political advantage of this. Will that change in your view? Dushyant Dave says minorities will feel a sense of security perhaps after this judgment. Do you believe, though, the politicians will feel the same way?
Well, forget the minorities. I appeared for a gentleman called Ganesh Gupta, who had a fruit juice stall in Jangirpuri. The point is that bulldozers don't go minority majority. The people behind them go minority majority. And they even went on and destroyed the rat miner Vakil Hassan, who was a national hero. His house was destroyed. Today, people may feel a sign of relief, and anybody who thinks he's an emperor above the law, a Badshah or a Maharaj, who can bring your house down, to that gentleman, the Supreme Court has said, sorry, we are putting a brake on all your ambitions.
Right.
We will provide a mechanism and we will hold you strictly to it.
Okay. I think you've put that well. In a way, the Supreme Court has sent a message. However high you are, there is a law above you. So even if you're a chief minister, a minister, or a senior police officer, or a DM, you cannot take the law into your hands. The executive cannot become the judge in every case and use the bulldozer as a weapon of their power. That impunity must stop, and hopefully this court order has sent out a powerful message. To that extent, it is a very strong, and dare one say, a much needed judgment delivered by the Supreme Court. Restores some confidence in the rule of law. I thank my guests for joining me here tonight on my talking point. Let's turn to an exclusive interview that my colleague Sahil Joshi, our Mumbai bureau chief, has done with one of the key players here in the Maharashtra election, the Shiv Sena UBT chief and former Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray. Once again, in that interview, Uddhav has lashed out at the Election Commission, claiming that they've been biased in the manner that they've been checking his helicopters and indeed his bags. Thackeray also claimed that he wasn't interested in becoming or being projected the Chief Minister face, and that decision would be taken after the elections. He claims that he has only one agenda: defeating the BJP in this election. Listen in to Uddhav Thackeray.
सब लोग पूछ रहे हैं कि भाई मुख्यमंत्री कौन बनेगा, ना महायुति के पास
जीतेगा वही, जो जीतेगा वो सिकंदर।
पवार साहब कह रहे हैं कि जिसकी सीटें ज्यादा आएंगी वो मुख्यमंत्री बनेगा।
सुनिए, आज ही सुबह मैंने एक इंटरव्यू में इसका उत्तर दिया है। हम तीनों में कोई विवाद नहीं है और पहले दिन से तय किया था। ऑफ कोर्स मैं चाहता था कि अगर किसी एक फेस को हम प्रोजेक्ट करें, जरूरत नहीं कि मेरा फेस, अगर कांग्रेस में है या राष्ट्रवादी में, मुझे कोई आपत्ति नहीं है। खैर वो दिन तो अब चले गए और कल परसों पवार साहब ने कहा कि जिसके ज्यादा सीटें आएंगी, शायद हम मतलब अब तक कुछ ऐसा फॉर्मूला तय नहीं हुआ है, तो उनका मुख्यमंत्री हो सकता है। उनको पूछा गया तो ऐसे भी हो सकता है, तो हो सकता है।
तो ये कोई फॉर्मूला नहीं है,
ये फॉर्मूला नहीं है। हम एक बात निश्चित, हम ये जो लुटारू सरकार है इनको भगाना चाहते हैं, ये हमें नहीं चाहिए। हम में से कौन मुख्यमंत्री बनेगा, खैर वो तो बात की बात, लेकिन ये लुटारू है जो महाराष्ट्र को लूट रहे हैं, इनको तो हमें भगाना ही है।
लेकिन
अन्यथा क्या होगा कि मुख्यमंत्री, चलो ठीक है, मैं कहता हूं मुझे बनना है मुख्यमंत्री, आप कहते हैं आपको बनना है, लोगों का क्या होगा? जो महाराष्ट्र की लूट हो रही है उसको रोकने वाला कोई तो चाहिए, और हम तीन मिलकर दे सकते हैं।
आज प्रधानमंत्री भी यहाँ पर थे और प्रधानमंत्री ने ये मुख्यमंत्री पद के मुद्दे को उठाया था।
आज उनकी कुछ खबर ही नहीं मैंने पढ़ी।
नहीं, आज उनकी रैली थी।
हाँ, लेकिन कहीं पे टीवी पे रैली लाइव दिखाई कि नहीं दिखाई, कुछ खबर नहीं आई।
लेकिन मेरे पास खबर तो है, मतलब मैंने तो रैली
बताइए मुझे, मैं जानना
चाहता हूं। तो उन्होंने ये कहा कि महाविकास आघाड़ी में एक पार्टी अपने आप को मुख्यमंत्री पद के लिए पुश कर रही है और दूसरी पार्टी ये बताने में लगी हुई है कि नहीं, ऐसा कोई फॉर्मूला तय नहीं हुआ।
कौन सी पार्टी?
वो बेसिकली इशारा कर रहे थे आपकी तरफ कि आपने प्रपोजल रखा था कि मुख्यमंत्री आप तय कर लीजिए, लेकिन कांग्रेस और एनसीपी की तरफ से उस पर कोई जवाब आया नहीं।
तो उसमें उनका क्या प्रॉब्लम है? क्या वो बता सकते हैं कि उनके पास जो सब जमावड़ा है, गद्दारों की फौज, कौन बनेगा सरदार उसका? बता सकते हैं? बताओ तो, पहले आपस में तो कुछ तय करो, हमारे और क्यों देख रहे हो? मोदी जी कल आकर कह रहे कि ये वो फलाना फलाना जो भी कुछ है, ये गद्दार मुख्यमंत्री बनेगा, तो डिक्लेयर करो।
लेकिन कोई
हम में से कौन बनेगा, वो मोदी जी को चिंता करने की जरूरत नहीं है।
लेकिन लोग कहते हैं कि आपकी किरकिरी हो गई, आपने इतना प्रपोजल दिया लेकिन किसी ने उस पर सोचा ही
नहीं। मैंने एक सुझाव दिया था। कभी कभी क्या होता है कि बाद में होता है कि अरे यार वो करते तो अच्छा होता, बाद में पता चलता कि अरे ना करते तो अच्छा होता। तो एक ऑफकोर्स हम तीन पार्टी इकट्ठा है और भी कुछ दोस्त है, तो सुझाव देना तो सबका।
आपने सुझाव ये कहकर दिया था कि अगर हम मुख्यमंत्री पद का उम्मीदवार घोषित नहीं करेंगे तो पार्टियों में होड़ लगती है एक दूसरे का उम्मीदवार गिराने।
जो अनुभव हमें बीजेपी के साथ आया था
25 साल में,
बिल्कुल
25 साल में या 14 के बाद?
25 साल में।
उद्धव जी, सबको पता है कि आप फोटोग्राफर है एक्चुअली, लेकिन आजकल आप कैमरा या वीडियोग्राफी
करता हूँ ना,
आजकल बहुत ज्यादा।
अरे सबूत मैंने कल दिया है ना, आज
वीडियो आपने रिलीज किया अभी,
और उसके लिए मैं चुनाव आयोग का धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ, आभार मानना चाहता हूँ कि आपने बहुत दिन के बाद जो मुझ में जो एक फोटोग्राफर है उसको वापस जगाया।
नहीं, लेकिन उस पर गलत क्या है ये?
और साथ ही साथ मैंने कुछ सवाल पूछे, और मैं सामना का भी एडिटर हूँ, तो जो पत्रकारिता भी मेरी जाग गई।
नहीं, लेकिन मैंने देखा उसके बाद में कि इलेक्शन कमीशन की तरफ से क्लैरिफिकेशन आया कि भाई हमने तो प्रधानमंत्री का भी बैग चेक किया है, या हेलीकॉप्टर चेक किया, अमित शाह का भी किया हुआ है।
आप विश्वास कर सकते हैं?
देवेंद्र फडणवीस या एकनाथ शिंदे का भी।
आप विश्वास कर सकते हैं चुनाव आयोग इनकी बैग चेक करने की हिम्मत दिखा सकता है?
नहीं, सवाल तो आप विश्वास करते हैं?
नहीं, मैं तो नहीं करता, मैं तो बिल्कुल नहीं करता। और वो इसलिए नहीं करता, कुछ दिन, महीने या साल पहले मैंने जो खबर सुनी थी, ओडिशा में प्रधानमंत्री जी की बैग जिसने चेक की थी उसको सस्पेंड किया गया।
लोकसभा चुनाव के वक्त
पता नहीं, शायद उसके अगल बगल में होगा, तो उसको सस्पेंड किया गया।
हाँ।
अच्छा, दूसरी बात ऐसी है कि जब भी प्रधानमंत्री आते हैं, एक तो मेरा मानना है कि प्रधानमंत्री किसी एक पार्टी के प्रचार के लिए नहीं आनी चाहिए, क्योंकि वो पार्टी के प्रधानमंत्री नहीं।
पर ये पहली बार थोड़ी हो रहा है उद्धव जी।
नहीं, लेकिन आप कब देखो 60 साल कांग्रेस में क्या किया, वो बदलाव चाहते थे, इसलिए जनता ने आपको चुन लिया। तो अब वही चीज आप आगे लेके जाने वाले, तो कांग्रेस क्या बुरी थी? तो प्रधानमंत्री आप देश के हैं, आप चलो नई शुरुआत करो, देश स्वागत करेगा उसका। अच्छा, इसके बावजूद आज ही की बात दूसरे दिन, लगातार दूसरे दिन मेरी बैग चेक की, कोई मुझे आपत्ति नहीं है। लेकिन जब मैं एक जगह से दूसरी जगह जाना चाहता था, तो जब तक प्रधानमंत्री जी सोलापुर एयरपोर्ट पे लैंड नहीं होते, तब तक मेरा हेलीकॉप्टर, मैं औसा में था, सोलापुर से औसा कितनी दूर है, जाना था मुझे कहा, उमरगा, वो जब तक लैंड नहीं होते तब तक यहाँ से परमिशन नहीं दी गई।
वो तो सिक्योरिटी प्रोटोकॉल है ना।
नहीं, इसलिए तो मैं कहता हूँ, मैं भी तो मेरे पार्टी का नेता हूँ, वो उनके नेता है, वो प्रधानमंत्री है, इसीलिए उनको अलग कानून मैं नहीं मानने वाला।
अभी नैरेटिव चेंज हो गया ऐसा आपको लगता है? अचानक सब लोग लाडली बहना पर बात कर रहे हैं, यानी लाड़की बहन जो स्कीम लाई गई है, आपको भी उसका जवाब देना पड़ा कि 3,000 रुपए हम देंगे, 1,500 रुपए उन्होंने दिया, 3,000 हम देंगे। मैं हमेशा कई जगह पे कहता हूं कि एक आईपीएल ऑक्शन की तरह लग रहा था, एक खिलाड़ी पर ऑक्शन लग रहा था।
सही आपका ये पैसा देना एक बात, अगर आप भाई बहन का नाता मानते हो तो भाई कभी भी अपने बहन को मैंने क्या दिया उसकी जाहिरात नहीं करता। ये लोग जाहिरात कर रहे, मतलब ये रिश्ता असली रिश्ता नहीं है।
लेकिन आप भी तो 3,000 रुपए बोल रहे हैं ना।
हाँ, लेकिन हमने तो हम दे रहे हैं, लेकिन साथ ही साथ 2-4 दिन पहले जो कोल्हापुर में हुआ, अब कौन से पार्टी में है, हमारे पार्टी में वो थोड़े दिन थे, वो महाडिक,
धनंजय महाडिक, बीजेपी सांसद जो धनंजय महाडिक, जिनको इलेक्शन कमिशन ने नोटिस
फिलहाल आज कौन से पार्टी में?
बीजेपी में है।
कल कौन से पार्टी में होंगे पता नहीं। उन्होंने जो बात कही बहुत ही मस्ती की बात कही, जैसे उनको लगता है कि सारी महिलाएं अपनी नौकर है। 1,500 रुपए हर महीना हम उनको क्या सैलरी दे रहे, कि पैसा हमसे लेना है, अगर वहां जाएंगे तो फोटो निकाल कर रखना, क्या बिगाड़ेंगे आप? हिम्मत तो करके देखो। इतनी मस्ती आज तक कभी महाराष्ट्र ने देखी नहीं।
लेकिन उसका बच तो हुआ है ना नीचे, काफी लोग बात कर रहे हैं लाडली बहना को लेकर, और महाविकास आघाड़ी को
शुरू के 15-20 दिन था, लेकिन बाद में आहिस्ते आहिस्ते लोगों को पता चलने लगा, अरे ये तो फंसाया जा रहा है, और 1,500 रुपए में घर नहीं चलता। अच्छा, दूसरी बात ऐसी कि इन्होंने क्या किया है, इलेक्शन कमीशन को बीच में डाला और वो योजना आज रुका दी, मतलब उनको देना इतना ही था। आज वो जो स्कीम थी वो उसके ऊपर रोक लगा ली इलेक्शन कमीशन के माध्यम से।
बटेंगे तो कटेंगे, एक रहेंगे तो सेफ रहेंगे,
वो भाजपा के लिए है,
मतलब
उनको बाकी सारी पार्टियां नहीं चाहिए, वो एक ही रहेंगे तो ही सेफ रहेंगे। और यही तो बात नड्डा ने कही थी कि अब आरएसएस की भी जरूरत नहीं है, तो एक है तो सेफ है।
नहीं, वो तो अकेले रहेंगे तो सेफ रहेंगे, ऐसा हो गया ना। एक है तो सेफ
अकेले रहेंगे, नहीं, एक है तो सेफ है।
घोषणा बदल रहे हैं।
नहीं, उसका अर्थ है वो एक है तो सेफ है, मतलब वो एक अगर भाजपा है तो ही सेफ है, और कोई रहेंगे तो सेफ नहीं रहेंगे। तो वो उनके लिए ये है कि बीजेपी के लिए
भाई नंबर्स के बाद फिर दोबारा वही खेल शुरू हो जाएगा जो पिछली बार हो गया था। कोई यहाँ से वहां, फिर बीच पे कई बार खबरें आती है कि भाई आपका और बीजेपी की बातचीत चल रही है।
क्यों जाऊं बीजेपी के साथ? मेरी पार्टी तोड़ी, मेरी पार्टी को खत्म करने की वो कोशिश उन्होंने की, मेरे परिवार को बदनाम कर रहे हैं, मेरे बेटे को बदनाम किया उन्होंने, यहां तक मोदी जी की पहुंच गई कि वो मुझे नकली संतान कहने लगे। तो क्या मोदी जी नकली संतान के साथ हाथ मिलाएंगे?
Now, as I've been traveling across Maharashtra, I've been looking at different places and their historical significance in the context of elections in this state. One such place that I've just been to is to Sangli in western Maharashtra, because Sangli is known as the turmeric capital of the country, but it is also the home of a 4-time former chief minister, the late Vasantdada Patil, who really shaped in many ways the sugar cooperative movement along with Yashwantrao Chavan before him. Vasantdada's legacy, even several decades after he passed away, is still alive. His grandson is the Lok Sabha MP there. And the farmers of Sangli still venerate Vasantdada. But the farmers are also angry because they are not getting remunerative prices, they claim, for their produce. How is all this playing out on the ground? How does Sangli see the elections of 2024? This is my ground report today. First stop here in Sangli is at the Vasantdada Shetkari Sahkari Sakar Karkhana. So the cooperative society named after the late Vasantdada Patil, who, as I said, was a 4-time chief minister of Maharashtra and a real strongman of the Congress at the time. Remember, sugar politics is linked to political patronage in places like Sangli. There were once 14 sugar factories here, but a number of them are now turning dysfunctional, allegedly because of mismanagement. But their political clout remains intact. Let's go and find out how sugar politics plays out in this part of the country. Come with me. तुम्ही सगळे शेअर होल्डर्स आहात. तुम्ही शेअर होल्डर्स, कॉपरेटिव्ह मध्ये सगळे शेअर होल्डर्स, शेतकरी आहात तुम्ही. तुम्हाला बरोबर दाम मिळतं की नहीं? नहीं पर एक जमाने में जब वसंतदादा पाटिल थे तो आप पूरी तरह से उनके साथ थे. अभी भी है उनके परिवार के साथ. हाँ, वसंतदादा का टाइम और आज के टाइम में क्या फरक है? भरपूर फरक आहे. हाँ, नीतीमध्ये. आणि त्या काळात काय व्हायचं? काय सुद्धा नाही. दर चांगला भेटत होता, आता दर भेटत नाही. वाय काँग्रेस? वाय सांगली सो डॉमिनेटेड बाय काँग्रेस? दॅट इज अ व्हेरी ओल्ड दादांची खासियत काय होती की सच अ टॉल लीडर यू हॅड इन सांगली? व्हॉट वॉज दादांची खासियत अशी होती, ते जरी शिकलेले कमी होते, they were only 7 degrees. 7 pass. Even though he used to call the person by name. Is it though profitable to do sugarcane farming or not?
No, at present it is very
profit
difficult.
तरी असेल.
Profit, it's no profit, no loss business.
अच्छा, एक मला विचारायचं आहे आपल्या सगळ्यांना. पॉलिटिक्स इथे नेहमी काँग्रेसचा एक जोर आहे, अजून आहे की आता कमी झालाय हळूहळू? वसंतदादा
फार कमी झालाय. पहिल्यापेक्षा कमी आहे.
का कमी का झालाय?
Because of this Sahakar only, because of this corporate sector only.
It has become less. Because now the cooperatives are not run as efficiently as in the past. एका परिवाराला वसंतदादांच्या नावावर देता की त्यांच्या कामावर देता? दादांच्या नावावर देता. तुमचे कॉपरेटिव्हचे थाउजंड्स ऑफ मेंबर्स आहेत, हजारो में आहेत.
पण काय झालंय माहितीये का साहेब, जेवढं वसंतदादांचा प्रभाव जेवढा इथं सांगलीवर होता, तोपर्यंत वसंतदादाच निवडून येत होते आणि वसंतदादा मुख्यमंत्री होत होते. त्यानंतर जे पुढचं जनरेशन आहे ना, दे आर नॉट दॅट स्ट्रॉंग.
Okay, now we spoke to, of course, some of the shareholders of this cooperative. They are the farmers of the sugarcane field. But what about the people who work in the sugarcane fields, the sugarcane laborers? And this is a story in itself. Most of them have migrated from Beed district. तुम्ही सगळे बीडचे का? किती मिळतं तुम्हाला एका
आम्हाला 373 रुपये
दिवसाचे? वर्षाचे किती करता मग? किती महिने राहता इथे?
तसं नसतं.
कुठल्या पक्षाला वोट देणार?
जे महागाई कमी करीन त्याला देणार ना.
तुम्ही पण सगळे बीडून यंग, काय तुम्हाला काही दुसरी नोकरी नाही मिळत का तिथे?
सर, हे म्हणजे नोकऱ्या म्हणजे विषय कसा आहे, आमच्या इकडे जे एक काय विषय झालाय आरक्षणामुळे, याच्यामुळे थोडं म्हणजे आम्हाला टक्केवारी जरी असेल तरी.
तुम्ही काय मराठा आहात? आरक्षण जोपर्यंत मिळालं नाही तुम्हाला काही सरकारी नोकरी काय मिळत नाही?
काय नाही.
किती मिळतं दिवसाचे इथे राहून?
इथे म्हणजे काय 1,00,000-1.25 लाखापर्यंत जाते.
4 महिन्यासाठी 1,00,000-1.25 लाख. 4-5 महिने राहता. बाकी वर्षासाठी काय करता?
बाकी वर्षासाठी काय, बाकी आता पाणी नसल्यामुळे काय करता येत नाही ना.
पाणीच नाहीये तिथे?
पाणी नाही, बिलकुल. पाणी प्यायची वांदी म्हणून आम्ही इकडे येतो ना.
मग असंच करणार दरवर्षी?
काढावं लागणार. तोपर्यंत काही
तुम्हाला आरक्षण पाहिजे. वोट कोणाला देणार तुम्ही? मराठा समाज?
कुठं बी दिलं तरी काय एकूण एकच आहे, काय सरकार का बदलते का
काय फरक पडणार नाही,
का फरक पडत नसतो.
तुमच्या समोर सर्वात मोठी समस्या काय आहे?
सर्वात मोठी आता आम्ही बी दुसरी समस्या, आम्ही एकदम शेतकरी, मेन म्हणजे आमच्या शेताच्या पिकाला आम्ही इतकं कष्ट करून आम्हाला आमच्या पिकाला जर भाव नाही तर आमच्या वोटची कशी काय तुम्ही हे करणार? आम्हाला एवढंच म्हणणं आहे, फक्त आमच्या पिकाला तुम्ही भाव द्या, आम्ही तुम्हाला नक्की वोट करणार. आम्ही इतकं कष्ट करायचं.
पण तुम्हाला हे 1,500 सरकार देते,
1,000 रुपये दिले आणि तेलाचा डबा 2300 रुपयाला केला. आम्ही लेकरा बाळाला कशी दिवाळी करून खाऊ घालायची? आम्ही इतकं काबड कष्ट शेतीमध्ये करायचं, तितकं करून आमचे लेकरा बाळ छोटे छोटे तिकडे ठेवून यायचे, आम्ही पोटासाठी इकडे पण काम करायचं. आणि आमच्या
फॅमिली तिथेच आहे बीड मध्ये, तुम्ही सोडून तुमची मुलं कुठे आहेत?
आमचे मुलं आमच्या सासू बशीत. भाव वाढलाय का एवढ्या ह्याचा त्यातला तर वोट देणारच नाही.
Okay, now Sangli is also the turmeric capital of Maharashtra. ये बताओ बिजनेस कैसा है?
बिजनेस चल रहा है लेकिन इधर थोड़ा सुविधा कम है.
किसके लिए सुविधा कम है?
किसान के लिए, मार्केटिंग के लिए थोड़ा कम हो रहा है सुविधा.
क्योंकि ये तो ऐसी जगह है जहां मुझे लगा कि किसान को सब लोग पहला रखते हैं. वसंत दादा के टाइम से, फिर वो साकर कारखाना हो या शुगर फैक्ट्री हो, ग्रेप्स का बिजनेस हो, सब तो यहाँ तो चलता था. अब क्या हुआ है?
5 से 10 साल में हिंगोली का मार्केट इधर से बढ़ गया है.
सांगलीतच हळदीचा दर ठरला जातो आणि या हळद उत्पादक शेतकऱ्यांच्या मोठ्या समस्या आहेत. म्हणजे हळदीला उत्पादन खर्च साधारणतः 2 ते 2.5 लाख आहे आणि हळदीला जर 15,000 रुपये क्विंटल, 15 ते 20,000 रुपये क्विंटल भाव मिळाला नाही तर हळद उत्पादक शेतकरी डबऱ्यातच जातो. आणि मग या हळद उत्पादक शेतकऱ्यांसाठी इथं आता सौदे हे रोडवर होतात, रस्त्यावरती. आमचं म्हणणं आहे शेतकऱ्यांचं की या सौद्यासाठी एक मोठा हॉल बाजार समितीनं बांधला पाहिजे.
आप सौदे रोड पर करते हो?
हाँ, रोड पे.
तो कोई ये सिस्टम नहीं है?
सिस्टम नहीं है. हाँ, सिस्टम नहीं है. और किसान के लिए यहाँ कोई सुविधा नहीं है, ना कोई भोजन की सुविधा है, ना कोई टॉयलेट की सुविधा है, रहने के लिए कोई सुविधा है.
वसंत दादा के टाइम से और आज के टाइम में सबसे बड़ा फर्क क्या है? ये हंसने लगे.
खाली सर क्या होता है, इलेक्शन के टाइम खाली सगळी घोषणा करतात, मात्र वस्तुस्थिती काय होत नाही. आम्हाला इथं ड्रायपोर्टची गरज आहे, कारण आमची इथं शुगर, हळदीचं एवढं पोटेन्शियल आहे. एक्सपोर्टसाठी सगळं मार्केट असताना ड्रायपोर्टच्या घोषणा झाल्या 2018 पासून, 2014 पासून. मोदी साहेब आले, सांगली करू चांगली म्हटले, त्याच्यानंतर काही झालं नाही. म्हणून आता इथं खासदारकीला परिवर्तन झालं आणि आता सुद्धा हीच परिस्थिती आहे. रस्ते आणि गटरीच्या पलीकडे जाऊन सर्वसमावेशक जो विकास पाहिजे तो विकास होताना दिसत नाही.
आप चाहते हैं फैसिलिटी हो ताकि सांगली को एक तरह से एग्रीकल्चरल हब बनाया जाए, टर्मरिक से लेकर आप रेजन तक. ओके, ठीक है. अरे वाह, गन्ने का जूस है, 1 गिलास गन्ने का जूस. व्हेन यू आर इन शुगर केन कंट्री कम से कम उतना तो करना चाहिए. बर्फ नहीं. Sangli will be in a way remembered and etched with the memory of Vasant Dada Patil. Someone needs to write perhaps a fine biography of the late Vasant Dada Patil. Meanwhile, I'm going to enjoy my sugarcane juice. Rajdeep, Sardesai in Sangli for Maharashtra Bazaar. Okay, that's all that we could pack in on the show today. As you can see, the chopper is all set to fly off to a new destination tomorrow. That's how we are able to crisscross this large state of Maharashtra. But I'm also doing the good old-fashioned journalism of walking by foot, meeting people everywhere. It's hot and humid, especially along the Konkan coast. And when you're walking on the beach here in Ratnagiri or Malvan, where I was earlier today, the best thing you could do to refresh yourself, have Kokam Sharbat. Trust me, it's terrific. So when you're in this part of the country next time, try Kokam Sharbat or Kokam Soda as they call it and enjoy it. Let me leave you with a taste of that. Thanks for watching. Namaskar. And as they say in this part of the country, mi yeto udya parat. I'll be back tomorrow. Bye for now. Namaskar. कौन सा ड्रिंक है? कुठला देणार?
लिंबू सोडा आहे.
लिंबू सोडा, कोकम सोडा. कोकम सोडा बनाओ. कोकम सोडा इज यूनिक टू दिस पार्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. ये और कहीं नहीं मिलेगा आपको.
ये देखो कोकम, हाँ हे झाली कोकम. अच्छा क्या क्या डालती हो कोकम में?
कोकम सरबत हे आगळ आहे.
हाँ ये कोकम सरबत,
जलजीरा मसाला आहे.
जलजीरा मसाला,
मीठ, साखर पाणी.
साखर पाणी. ओहो लवरली. हा 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 कोकम सरबत है ना, फर्स्ट क्लास है ना, फ्रेश है. लवली. दिस इज माय होमलैंड एज आई सेड. महाराष्ट्र माझा.